Typhoon Vamco has caused extensive damage in the Philippines, flooding many parts of Luzon, the largest and most populated island. The storm, known locally as Ulysses, made landfall in the Bicol region. The same area was battered by the super typhoon Goni just a week ago.
Last November of 2020, Typhoon Ulysses hit the Philippines right after Typhoon Quinta and Raleigh, causing most damage to Cagayan Valley, leaving at least 73 people dead and over 4 million people who suffered losses during the typhoon. The floods were deadly, even with just dumping at least 150 millimeters of rain, when compared to the 2009 Typhoon Ondoy that dumped over 445 millimeters. So, where did it go wrong? Our planet, made up of nearly 71% of water, makes it seem like water is a very abundant resource that will never truly run out. This is true to a certain extent because only about 1% of this water, that is fresh water, is available for households, agriculture and livestock, and the industry. This water is replenished through a natural process called the water cycle. However, due to climate change, this cycle is disrupted and further aggravated by the impacts of human activities. Due to the accumulation of greenhouse gases, temperature rises, which causes more evaporation of water into the atmosphere. As air gets warmer, more water vapor is stored, which leads to more intense rainstorms, resulting to extreme flooding. Climate change, too, worsens the natural process of El Niño, causing extreme drought, especially in areas here in the Philippines. It also causes soil and land to dry out, so this, combined with extreme rainfall, causes much of the water to run off all at once. This is what happened following the onslaught of Ulysses, which were the frequent water service interruptions. It was explained by the MWSSRO to be caused by the increase in raw water turbidity levels, or a high particulate level that made the water collected in the dams appear brown and murky due to the sedimentation of water. This caused the surge of complaints by customers, not only because of the limited water supply, but also for the poor quality of water they received. According to the United Nations, around 700 million people suffer today from water scarcity, and by year 2030, almost half the world's population will be living in areas of high water stress. Crop losses, insufficient water supply to households, increase in waterborne diseases are some of the effects of the water crisis that has already been pertinent here in the Philippines. Despite it being around for such a long time now, what makes this crisis so hard to solve? It is because this water crisis is a complex linkage of multiple factors across different areas. Paying attention to climate change solutions, although vital, will not be enough without the efforts of government agencies and private water service providers to invest in more sustainable infrastructure and more efficient project planning and executions. When the La Mesa Dam's low water levels during El Niño and Angat Dam's technical limitations are combined with a lack of preservation of watersheds and river basins and the overpopulation of cities relying on these dams, further exacerbates the threat of severe water stress. So, with the limited capacity of dams that causes water scarcity in several regions in the Philippines, what could this government possibly see as a solution? The Kaliwa Dam project, according to the MWSS, is to be constructed by the foot of the Sierra Madre mountain range in order to meet the increasing demand of clean water supply for the people of Metro Manila, Rizal, and Quezon, reducing the total dependence in the Angat Dam. While the intended purpose of this dam seems nice, it received flack from several environmentalist groups because of the impacts of its construction that could be counterproductive in the long run. The Marikina watershed, which is a part of the Sierra Madre, is a vital source of water supply in Metro Manila. However, due to land conversion and quarrying, the watershed failed to be preserved and is seen to be one of the causes of extreme flooding and water scarcity after the onslaught of Ulysses. In relation to this, the construction of the Kaliwa Dam would require large areas in the Sierra Madre to be stripped off of its biodiversity and trees, which are vital for storing carbon, restoring watersheds, and regulating the water runoff during rainfall, especially in areas in Luzon most vulnerable to extreme flooding. It is also important to note that people's rights defenders and civil society organizations criticized this project for its budget will be funded by China and that its construction will cause the Dumagat tribe, an indigenous group residing in the Kaliwa River, to lose their ancestral lands and livelihood. So, considering all of these factors, is the construction of this dam really the ideal solution for the increasing demand of water? A multifaceted crisis also requires a multifaceted approach in order to solve it. We have to remember that climate change solutions are also the solutions to this water crisis, as extreme temperatures lead to the changes in precipitation patterns and more droughts and heat waves. Individual actions and systemic changes in order to mitigate carbon emissions and footprints, therefore, are vital to this problem. Instead of building infrastructures that could further damage the natural power of trees and watersheds in regulating water runoff, reinforcing and fixing existing dams, wastewater treatment plants, supply and sanitation systems should be properly planned and executed instead, as sustainable and efficient as possible. As several regions here in the Philippines are overpopulated, the system and policies of distributing water that remains to be unfair for those who are marginalized must be reformed, as they are the people most discriminated by this crisis. To truly solve this water crisis, citizens have to do their part by utilizing water-conserving strategies in their households, all the while collectively demanding accountability from government agencies and water service providers who have yet to prove that they recognize how clean water is a basic human right and not a commodity. We have the solutions. It's just that action must be done before all our clean water goes down the drain.